In this presentation, we will enter a purchase order, and as we do so, we will add a new inventory item through the purchase order entry process. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. We are in the Get Great Guitars file. We entered a purchase order last time. We're going to do this again. We're going to enter a new purchase order. However, this time we're going to add a inventory item during the purchase order process. So to do this, we're going to select the plus so that it turns into an X up top. We're looking in the vendors section. We're selecting the purchase order. Remember that the purchase order does not have a transaction related to it. It is a request for inventory. So we're going to get a vendor request inventory. Our main vendor we are buying inventory from at this time is Epiphone. However, we want to buy from a different vendor now, so we're going to add the vendor as we go. This is typical. This is often the case. We're going to add vendors as we enter documentations, whether that be expenses, whether that be expense items, checks, or in this case, purchase order. So we're going to add Gibson. So Gibson is going to be who we will be purchasing from. We're going to say tab. And then it'll say that's going to be a vendor. That's what we want. We can add more detail here. Note that we may not need as much detail for many of the people we purchase from. However, if it is our major vendor, like Gibson, if we're buying many guitars from them, we probably want more detail. We want more information. Who's the contact information? Who's the go-to person? What do we know about this individual? How can we build a good relationship with them? So here's that typical data input screen we would have when entering information for vendors. For customers, very similar process there as well. Once again, I'll type this in because I lost it with the Gibson. And we'll say tab, and then I'm just going to save it for our purposes with the minimal information, the name, just so we can practice entering the data. If we had the email, then of course we can add the email here. Gibson address is going to be down here. We didn't have one, so all we have is the name. Shipping address is going to be our address. This is where we want it to go. We're going to put the purchase order date is going to be on the 12th. So I'm just hitting the plus icon or the plus button, the plus on the keyboard to get it up to January 12th, 2019. That's the date we will be putting this in as of. We're going to be in the item detail, not the account detail, this being inventory items we are purchasing. We're now going to add a new product. So this is a new vendor. We're adding a new guitar. Remember what we're doing. We're purchasing a guitar that we're then going to sell. So we're purchasing it from the vendor. We're going to sell it to a customer. We're going to purchase it from this vendor, and the guitar's name or the product name is going to be a GSB. We're going to call it a GSB. And we don't have that yet. So I'm just going to select tab or add, and then we'll go through the adding process. This will be an inventory items we want to buy and we want to track. So we're going to keep the inventory up top. We have the name. We're then going to scroll down. We're not going to have anything in quantity. We're not going to have the initial quantity. This is kind of that information when we first start that we want that beginning balance, initial quantity. We're not going to have that here because we're purchasing these items. So we're going to scroll down. We've got the inventory asset. So that's what we want. It's going to be an inventory asset. And we're going to say that the sales information, we're going to give the full name is a Gibson SG. So we're going to call it a Gibson SG. We're going to say that the sales price, $777.40, and that is going to go to the income account. It's going to the sales of product income. We have been putting them to sales only, so we should be consistent there. I'm going to put this into the sales item. Note that in our chart of accounts, we have these two accounts for income type accounts. We have the sales, we have the products. Note what this is. These are going to be basically income accounts, and that's why we only see part of basically the chart of accounts. We may not need both of these. If whatever one we prefer, we may want to remove the other one just so we don't get mixed up or have a complication within that. This chart of account being provided by QuickBooks when we set up the chart of accounts. So we're going to go to sales. Note that as we set this up, this information doesn't have anything to do with the purchase order, but it does have to do with the item. So when we set up the item, we need to set up the sales item, because when we sell it, this is going to be the price per guitar for the sale. We are now on the purchase order, so we don't have that in this side of things because we're going to use the cost. We're buying the information. We're buying the inventory. So it is going to be taxable. We're going to say this is taxable because it is inventory. And we're going to say that the sales tax category will be Retail, we're being consistent here with the prior inventory items we set up the sales tax for. So it's going to be retail, tax bill, retail items. Then we're going to say that the description, we're going to copy the same sales information as the description. I'm going to copy that, right click and copy. We're going to put that in the description, the purchase information. Then we have the cost. The cost is what we're buying it for. This is what will be populated on this purchase order. $598 is what we're going to say the cost is. And then the cost of goods sold account. This is the cost of goods sold account we will use when we sell the inventory. Again, not used here. We're not going to see it here, but when we create the invoice, we're going to have the cost of goods sold account as the expense account at the point of sale. The preferred vendor is probably going to be, for us, we could fill out Gibson is going to be the vendor that will be preferred or used when we purchase this guitar typically. Then we're going to say save and close. These two are required fields, so they're forcing us to put an initial quantity. So I'm going to put the initial quantity is 0 at the as of date, the beginning of the year. And so we don't have any inventory until we get the purchase order for this item, it being a new one. So then we're going to say save and close again, see what happens. There we have it. We've got the product, and then we have the description, the quantity, how many we're going to purchase. We will keep that at 1, so the rate and the quantity of the amount is here. We're going to say that this is a custom order again for a customer. So we had a customer come into the store and say, hey, I'd like to get this particular Gibson SG guitar, and we don't have that here. So we go, but we can contact Gibson and see if we can get what you need. We contact Gibson and add this information. We will then apply it to this particular customer so that we can track it in relation to this customer. We're going to say we're going to add a new customer, and the customer is going to be Music Stuff Store. So this is a Music Stuff Store. We're going to add it. So I'm going to say tab. This is who we're going to sell it to. This is who we're buying from. We could then add the details if we so choose, and this would be good if we have a particular customer because we can then get the most contact information we can from the customer. But for the example problem, we will not. So I'm going to cancel this out, and then I'll select tab, and we will just save it. So I'm just going to save the name so we get that information in with the name so that we can process the purchase order with it. So there we have the total. We have any messages and memos. If we wanted to add any messages and memos, we can, of course, email this if we have the email, or we can save it and send it. I'm going to print it to a PDF file. So we'll say print, and we're going to print it to a PDF file. Here's the preview. We're going to go to the printer. We're going to once again use that cute PDF printer, which I do recommend some type of PDF printer. We will say print. Here it is, and I'm going to call this a purchase order for, this is Gibson, and the date of the purchase order was 01.12.19. So we'll go ahead and save that. We will now close this back out and save down below. Notice we have the save and close icon here, so it could have save and new. So if we had multiple purchase orders, we can go to the save and new with the drop down. We will then save and close, however, because this is the only one we have at this time. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.